Welcome back to FFP, amigos. And today we're talking about Brentford taking on Chelsea at home at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Let's see what happened. First of all, let's get to the point. It was a draw. So as of the end of the game, Chelsea still remains top four, but at risk with Newcastle, who has 2 games in hand and can certainly take over, as well as the Manchester Derby taking place right now, which I'm trying to get this video done so I can watch that game. Interesting to watch two teams that are suffering in a big derby. They both need that win. They need a result. Manchester United has a tendency to get a result against City, even when they have a poopy team. So let's see what happened there. But let's get into what this match happened. And the main thing here is many of us were shocked when the lineup came up. I'll bring it up here for a minute, in a minute, so we can check it out. But the surprise is really, well, the non-surprise, but the thing that Chelsea don't like, and I'm tired of saying this in every video, so I'll just keep it short, but is Sanchez in goal. We're not happy about that. And then we see that we have Reece James and Malagusto, two right backs, which was surprising. So I was trying to figure out who was going to play where. I did predict that it would be Reece that would go to left-hand side, and that's how it played out. But no left-sided left winger, left back, and Buemo tends to run down the sides. They had players, so I thought that was a risk because Brentford has some players that like to play wide, and one of them would be wrong-footed. But it wasn't terrible in the end. It did get cooked a couple of times, but we'll see. No Cole Palmer and the horror, man. We saw Nkunku up front. Nobody wants to see that. I can only explain that Jackson's just being brought back little by little. That's the reason. But to be honest, even then, I would prefer Pedro Neto at the 9. But fine, that's what we saw. And we saw Dewsbury Hall come back in. It felt like, yeah, it's a game that in terms of quality, supposedly we can rotate. But I think Brentford is a tough team. It's a big team. We were vulnerable at set pieces with a team that can play and score with such height that they have and strong players. But in any case, that was the thing. Still seeing Sancho, there's disappointing to me. He's really not performing. Um, so all round, if he was thinking of the game, but it's a Thursday, I think that we play, so it's a long game. I don't know if it's about rest or rotation. It's hard to understand, and I believe we need consistency in the team. Many other teams they play week in and week out, 3 games a week with the same team to get them into a rhythm, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll get into that Maresca stuff. But that's what happened with the lineup. As you can see here, pretty much those were my concerns. Um, it wasn't a terrible thing in the end. As soon as we get up, the game starts, something wonderful happens. And this is the beauty of having our captain, Reece James, in the team. What a delivery on a set piece. And that's having Dawson in the match and Jackson back, they could probably get at the end of some of those crosses is really good. But nobody got to it. But if those of you who watch the highlights will see, that's a very extremely dangerous cross because it comes in with the right pace and the right power, close enough to the keeper to be very dangerous, but too powerfully delivered for the keeper to actually take a risk to come out to get it. So it's just sad that nobody was able to attack a ball like that. In any case, at the 3rd minute, I already saw Sanchez give away the ball, and he did that a couple of times, to be honest. And we saw that Reece slotted into the left back game, into the left center back. I'm gonna call it because even though he's on the left hand side and Kukurea wasn't playing, when that happens, it seems like we just line up a 3. And I've always said that when I'm preparing the pre-match game, sometimes you guys we do 4-2-3-1 supposedly, but we're rarely in that position. So in some games we're never in that position because we'll defend as a 4-4-2, we'll attack as a 3-5-2 or 3-1, Caicedo in a 6, playing really wide. And today we saw that with Gusto. So he was put on the right hand side, and I think he gets criticized a lot, again, as I said in my last video. But he's asked to do some pretty weird stuff for a right back or for a right wing back. And he cuts into the 5 slot as the double pivot, which he does sometimes. Then he's called in to run as a 10. He does a lot of work that people don't appreciate and don't see, and he did it this game where he drags players around and he actually does runs in behind the left back and the center back and creates space. And he did that well today. In any case, an attending 6 minute, again, I just don't want to call them out, but I can't help myself. Sanchez gave away another ball. The left to a shot that he blocked really well. He's got that great Superman dive for the highlights, but it's still concerning. And then on the 35th minute, I saw something really interesting. And this is one of the reasons why Nkunku is just really bad for the team right now. Aside from him not be able to find good ways to link up with other players, not having good link up play. His pressing is terrible. And one example, if you guys see in the 35th minute, this will never be in a highlight, but it sort of accentuates the problem, one of the problems with him, which is we put Brentford under pressure. And Madueke is actually manages to make one of the players fumble who plays a backward pass. And now the last man is in an uncomfortable position with Madueke closing down on him fast, and he's wrong footed. All that needed to happen there is that the press needed to follow when Madueke triggered that. The press should have triggered and he ran. And Nkunku doesn't. And he's just standing in space and not even make the run. And if he would have done that press, we would have recovered that ball on goal, 2-1. But that's the problem so that's why many Chelsea fans say he doesn't even want to be there. His mind is somewhere else. He's not running. He's not fighting. Again, sometimes you got to be careful. I don't think this is the case because I don't like necessarily Maresca. Uh, I don't think he's, at the skill level that I would like a Chelsea coach to be. But I don't think he's the kind of coach. He likes the pressing from up front, from the top. And I don't think he would be okay with that sort of thing. Although sometimes some number nines or forwards are asked, not in Chelsea, not the way you play, but sometimes they're asked to maybe not do some of those runs in case there's a recovery, he's in space. But I don't think that's the case. In any case, a couple of good saves in the first half. And within as soon as that happened, so at the worst 30th minute, I'm thinking Nkunku should leave, and I know that would be hard for his morale or, for psychologically for him to get replaced at the 30th minute. But I think a 30-minute break for whoever's going to come in to replace him, be it Jackson. I would have already put Pedro in as the 9 if Jackson can't play that long until we can bring in Jackson in the 9 and Pedro can shift out to the wings. But that's how bad I thought it was. So at the end of the first half, Chelsea had a possession, obviously, but better possession, 59%. And we had, I think, 4 shots. And Brentford had 6. So actually, not only that, but only, 1 shot on target for each. And Brentford's was by far the clearer opportunity, without a doubt. And what I saw throughout the game in the first half, but also in the second, I'll probably bring it up again when we talk about the second half. But Chelsea was spread really badly. Now, philosophically, they'll tell you that the wider you stretch the pitch and usually it's width that you're talking about, but not depth. But if you stretch, you open up spaces, especially somebody that's playing a low block. In theory, you should be able to force their marking to spread out a little bit and create a little bit more space. But if you spread so much or in a way where your players struggle to link up or there's a bit of a delay for them to link up, it becomes very easy to defend as well. And we weren't breaking that on one-on-ones and taking players, and we weren't doing it with playing the ball fast. We were just spread apart for no reason. And then when we are in transition, that's a different problem in transition. Normally we suffer because we only have one man on the defense. We have a line of 6 almost on top. But when we're stretched out like this, even on the defense, there's enough room to run into. And we saw that Brentford with Mbeumo was able to just, 2 players run us ragged, run, from their half all the way into our area because the space is there. So I believe in creating space, but I'm not too sure that we were executing that poorly. Again, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Maresca on this thing. But anyway, we're super stretched. That's very common. There's too much distance in someone's player, and the players weren't closing those distances down with associative play. In any case, in the 49th minute, something lovely happens that I've been claiming, and I saw Maresca applaud it, which I like, because I fear sometimes that he's sort of anti this sort of thing, where a long pass from Enzo finds Jackson one-on-one, and we saw this last week. It happens often, and yes, even against the low block, you can find a very clear, open long ball if the run of the 9 is done properly and in a timely manner. Again, because you have our inverteds that can spread and our 10s that can spread, take a player with them and create that space right between the 2 center backs or between the right back and center back. And that lane opened up. And obviously, players like we've seen Caicedo find that space. We've seen Enzo on this one with Jackson, and we've even seen Chalobah find that space. And it left them really well. And that's a pass that's available more often. I hope we find more. So in the second half, obviously, Jackson comes in for Nkunku. That needed to happen. And Palmer comes in, and Neto comes in. So Madueke and Dewsbury haul out, which was, I think, an important change. Although I'm a little bit surprised and shocked that Sancho's still in there. I don't get it. Again, I don't understand. After the subs, Chelsea starts playing we finally find associations between the players. And I think, Palmer has a huge part to do with that. Of course, it's not the Palmer, the magic Palmer we had before. And he took a couple of shots on his right foot. One was pretty, like, way off target. And I think he's finding himself. I said that in the last game. He's finding himself on the left hand side of that mid channel. So when he cuts in, he's finding his right foot, which he's not very prolific lately with. So the ball doesn't go where it needs to go. But that's what's happening. And we're finally finding each other. And there's an opportunity. Reece actually comes out and brings Kukurea, which I think brings in a little bit more balance in terms of width, allowing us to get there. And we were getting cooked, actually. Reece James was getting cooked, I think, on the wings. Our Malagusta was inverted and attacking a lot, so leaving us vulnerable. And Reece wrong-footed on that side. He has a strength, but sometimes he can be caught out. And then I think we're absolutely forgiven by Vanderberg from Brentford. That's gonna be one of the misses of the season, man. That's gonna be in the bloopers probably, because he gets a ball to across into an open goal, 3 feet from goal, maybe clear header. He heads it down as you're told to do as a proper header in the box, which is head the ball down. But you know that sometimes it's counterproductive as it bounces too close and it just you miss make it way too easy for the goalie, or it bounces even over the goal sometimes. But we were forgiven. That goal should have been in there. And there was like 4 minutes there where they really destroyed Chelsea's defense. I mean, they really broke us down and showed some of our vulnerabilities. And it's reminiscent to this space where suddenly we can find a little bit more play and exciting. And when we used to do well is we were still vulnerable in the back, that we would outscore teams when we were, collecting a lot of points. And, if you don't convert, as we saw today, we're vulnerable in the back. So we could very easily have lost this game, to be honest. And towards the end, I think, I was kind of okay with the tie because I saw that we were so vulnerable to potentially lose that game. And I'd rather collect that 1 point given where we are. So, my reflections are it's likely that we rested a lot of players because we had the UEFA in mind, or we're trying to protect ourselves from the injuries. That's the only explanation for some of these weird choices that were made. But I still think that doesn't justify Nkunku. I think Nkunku has been so poor that there's no sense. I think there's no sense in bringing him on. We don't have that many games to go in the season to try to recover him towards the end of the season. So I think there's a lot of psychology in play there as well. But I think it's just too risky. It's kind of a waste of a man to put him there. I believe Palmer was rested. Sancho, I believe, shouldn't be on the field as well. I think there's alternatives. And this is the thing, nobody liked the fact that we have, I even forgot his name, Mykhailo Mudryk. He was all over the place, but at least having the bodies, the same thing that's the problem with having the nine. You need the bodies in there to try to have an opportunity to play someone. Same thing on the left. It's not working out. I think there's no excuse because, again, Pedro could be. But in a way, I'm saying Pedro should cover the nine. He should cover the left wing. We're asking too much of this guy. But you kind of know my point. I think Sancho is not there. There may be some other players that can cover. If he's really not delivering, it's not crazy to test other players or other strategies there, even the young ones, even Tyreek George. But in any case, I say in any case a lot, guys. I noticed in my video. I'm gonna fix that. In Sanchez, Robert Sánchez, it drives me mad. Look, he did some great saves, and to be honest, he kept us in the game a lot. But he also gave away a couple, and still, that doesn't justify it to me. He would have to do so much that I don't think even the season's left. There's long enough left in the season for me to want Robert Sanchez back in the game. I don't know what you guys think. I'd really like a comment on this. I really want to see. Am I a crazy person? I feel like Jorgensen should be in goal, and he should have been given a deserved run of games. Even though he could have made a mistake on the one game that he came back, but there was one. Sanchez makes them all the time, and we don't particularly have much of a gain with him. So the question is, amigos, should we be playing Jorgensen still? It's kind of just a conversation, of shooting the shit amongst ourselves, guys, because I don't think that's going to change or they care. But I want to know if I'm not a crazy person feeling that way. In any case, Reece James at left back is a little bit tricky, but he contributes into set pieces. And I think he can do something amazing that he didn't find this game. So that long pass that I'm talking about, if he's the left center back, he's very comfortable on his right foot to find either a wide pass on the right where he can find, let's say, Madueke in this case, or he can play Jackson through the middle in a very long ball behind the center backs because he's got the pace on the ball. He's got the foot to do that. But we didn't see it. Subbing, tossing, bringing Tossing in was I think a good idea. This is one of the tallest teams in the Premier League, and Chalobah is good in the air, and so is Tosin, and he's tall. So I think we needed him for set pieces. I think that was a good one. Fernandez had a decent game, but we can't expect him to have an amazing game like the second half of last game every game. But he did well. Caicedo, amazing as always. Really incredible. And we saw how having a proper number 9 is critical. It really is amazing. Again, look, he's missing the target. We sort of knew about Jackson, but if you see the fight, the hustle, and how he makes things difficult for the center backs, great. We just didn't capitalize on the fact that we have a number 9 doing the dirty work, because the number 9 couldn't put in the back of net, or our wingers or 10s couldn't find the goal either. But Madueke didn't offer anything special. And sort of my thought here is this is a reminder that the Premier League is a really tough place, and Brentford is a very exemplary example of what that means, right? They're a team that can take on any big team any given day and give you a hard time. I'm not saying Chelsea are a big team any at this point, but they're a team that, and with a great coach and Thomas Frank, they can stop, a Man City or even a Liverpool on any given day. They're a physical team, and that's the beauty of the Premier League. Anything can happen. It's just sad that we couldn't capitalize on it. We're getting nervous and nervous as time goes by. If City wins their game and Newcastle win their 2 games, we're out of the top 4. We're out of Champions League game. We're dependent on other people's results to get the Champions League slots. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, and we both had opportunities. Chelsea had more, but I actually think Brentford, they weren't far off, and they had even the clearer ones. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Now I look forward to seeing the other results here where we land, and we look forward to some Conference League, an easier game right now. On that a note, um, Betis seems to be like the rival everybody's talking about. That Chelsea is the one. Is going to be the team to beat? And jokingly, I think Manuel Pellegrini said something like, "We'll see you in the final" or something like that, Chelsea. And let me tell you, that's a better coach than our coach. So we would have to come in a good stride and with good momentum with our players and line up the right team. Because if we're in a tough spot and it comes down to, Betis will take us. That's a better coach, more experienced, far more knowledgeable, older, smarter coach, and I'm really scared for that. So even if we get a little bit too comfortable, we got that in the bag, and we should, but we'll see. Again, Manuel Pellegrini is a great coach. Let's see. So while preparing that video, I'll do the pre-match video for that coming up in this week. And for now, as always, to all the Chelsea fans and the Chelsea players, come on, you Blues.